some cases, that might be an outcome where if we have a market that is in, very difficult financial conditions.
It was an ordinary day until the news broke. John Deere, known for its iconic green tractors, announced he was shifting part of its manufacturing to Mexico. For many, these tractors were more than machines. They were what kept their farms alive. The news quickly caught the attention of President Donald Trump, who wasted no time expressing his anger. What followed was a fiery back and forth between Trump and John Deere. As the battle grew, so did the tension. Can John Deere survive this storm? Will Trump's threats be enough to stop them? Keep watching because you're in for a shocker. John Deere's bold move. John Deere shocked the world by pushing back against Trump's attacks over moving his production to another country. But this wasn't just a statement of disagreement. No, this was a threat. What really happened between John Deere and President Donald Trump that prompted the company to leave the United States in the first place? John Deere's decision wasn't something that happened overnight. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment idea. It was calculated. For months, the company had been under pressure to modernize its operations, and like many big companies, John Deere faced the need to cut costs and stay competitive on the global stage. Moving some production to Mexico seemed like a smart business move, one that would save money and increase profits, but as soon as the news hit the airwaves, all hell broke loose. Why did this move strike such a nerve? Well, Trump didn't see it as just a business decision. He saw it as a betrayal. In his eyes, John Deere, a company that had deep roots in American soil, was turning its back on the very people who made it successful, the American worker. Trump, known for his strong America First stance, wasn't about to let this slide. So what did he do? He didn't just take a deep breath and let it go. No, instead, he went on the attack. Trump's response was quick and harsh. He called out John Deere in public, accusing them of being unpatriotic and saying that they were doing nothing more than running away from their responsibilities to American workers.
I just noticed behind me John Deere tractors. I know a lot about John Deere. I love the company, but as you know, they've announced a few days ago that they're going to move a lot of their manufacturing business to Mexico. I'm just notifying John Deere right now.
As the rhetoric grew louder, something even bigger was about to happen. John Deere wasn't going to stay quiet. In fact, the company made a surprising move that few saw coming. They fired back, not with silence or avoidance, but with a statement that shocked everyone. John Deere threatened Trump. Trump's administration had been focused on prioritizing U.S. manufacturing, jobs, and economic growth, especially in industries like agriculture. A move towards more environmentally friendly practices was seen as a potential disruption to the economy and jobs he believed were essential to America's success. Trump had always been vocal about his stance on climate change. He denied its impact and rolled back many of the environmental regulations put in place by previous administrations. To him, John Deere's push for sustainability was a slap in the face to American workers and businesses, and that's when things got ugly. Trump's response was swift, and it was fierce. He didn't hold back. In a flurry of tweets, statements, and speeches, he began attacking John Deere, calling them out for what he believed was a betrayal of the American worker. He argued that companies should prioritize growth and jobs over environmental concerns. John Deere painted them as elitists, more concerned with appeasing environmentalists than securing America's future. But Trump's response went beyond words. He used his influence to try to change public opinion, positioning John Deere as a company that was losing touch with the real America. He painted a picture of a nation where companies like John Deere were abandoning their core principles, choosing to chase the trends of the global elite instead of standing up for the hard-working American family. Trump's insults were not just about John Deere. They were a message to every corporation in the U.S. He wanted to remind everyone that if you crossed him, you would feel the consequences. As the issue intensified, John Deere found themselves in the eye of the storm. The public debate had shifted from business strategy to a full-blown political war. People began to take sides. Some sided with Trump, arguing that John Deere was abandoning its roots and putting profits over the American people. Others stood behind John Deere, praising the company for its bold move and commitment to the environment. But for John Deere, the stakes were much higher than just public opinion. They had a future to protect, and they weren't about to back down. John Deere's leadership didn't sit back quietly, letting Trump's accusations fly unchecked. They decided to make their position clear, and they did it with force. John Deere's threat wasn't a typical corporate move. It was a bold statement about what the company stood for. The message was simple. If Trump continued down this path of confrontation, John Deere might pull back some of its operations, or worse, lose its trust in the American government. The battle John Deere didn't expect. When John Deere made their threat, it didn't take long for Donald Trump to respond, and this time, he wasn't holding back. Trump, known for his unfiltered remarks and quick reactions, lashed out at the company with a fury that no one could have predicted. He took to social media first, calling out John Deere for its disloyalty and accusing them of undermining American values. Trump, who always prided himself on being a defender of American businesses, was furious that a company, especially one so deeply ingrained in the country's farming culture, would publicly challenge his authority. Trump's response wasn't just words. His team immediately began laying the groundwork for a potential campaign to punish John Deere for their stance.
Not only will we stop our businesses from leaving for foreign lands, but under my leadership, we're going to take other countries' jobs.
This would involve targeting their operations, pressuring local governments to reconsider contracts with the company, and even introducing policies that could severely impact John Deere's bottom line. At a rally in western Pennsylvania, the former president declared that if John Deere moved forward with its plan to increase production in Mexico, he would impose a 200% tariff on all the company's products entering the United States. This was no idle threat.
We're going to move a lot of their manufacturing business to Mexico. I'm just notifying John Deere right now. If you do that, we're putting a 200% tariff on everything that you want to sell into the United States.
Trump, a vocal critic of companies moving their manufacturing overseas, has repeatedly stated his intention to hit automakers with severe tariffs for shifting production to Mexico. But this time, he directed his wrath toward a major player in the agricultural sector, John Deere, a company synonymous with American farming equipment. Trump's warning came after John Deere's announcement earlier that year that they were laying off hundreds of workers in the Midwest while ramping up production in Mexico. The news stirred up anger among workers and political leaders alike. Many felt betrayed by a company that had long been a symbol of American manufacturing. These decisions were not just seen as corporate moves. They were seen as an attack on American workers and the heart of the nation's agricultural industry. Trump's strong words rattled the stock market, with shares in John Deere dipping by more than 1.5% in after-hours trading, following a modest 0.75% increase earlier in the day. It wasn't just a financial blow, it was a public challenge. Trump's tariffs were a signature element of his economic agenda, and now they were being aimed at one of America's most iconic agricultural equipment manufacturers. This was the first time Trump had threatened such severe tariffs on John Deere, though he had previously voiced similar threats to automakers. His message was clear. If American companies moved jobs overseas, they would face heavy consequences, whether they were building cars or tractors. And while John Deere did not immediately respond to his comments, the ripple effects were already being felt. For Trump, this move wasn't just about John Deere or even the economy. It was a larger statement about what he believed to be the erosion of American manufacturing. His supporters, particularly in rural America, saw him as the defender of American workers, standing up to corporate giants like John Deere that they believed were betraying the very communities that had supported them for decades. As Trump raged on, his supporters echoed his frustration, flooding social media with messages of loyalty to the former president and anger toward the company. It wasn't just a political spat anymore. It was becoming a battle of ideologies, with John Deere and Trump standing on opposite sides. The situation was quickly spiraling out of control. Both sides were now at war, and it seemed like there was no turning back. John Deere's strategic move. John Deere wasn't just reacting impulsively. Their decision to go head-to-head with Trump was rooted in something much deeper than a political quarrel. Behind the scenes, John Deere's leadership had been quietly planning a shift in strategy, one that embraced environmental sustainability, technological innovation, and the future of farming. For John Deere, the need to adapt to the changing world was clear. The agriculture industry was evolving rapidly, and the focus was shifting from just producing more crops to doing so in a way that was environmentally responsible. The farming world was changing, and John Deere knew that if they wanted to remain a dominant force in the industry, they had to evolve too. The company had already been investing heavily in green technologies, like eco-friendly tractors and sustainable farming tools, hoping to position themselves as leaders in this new age of agriculture. But the public response to their actions was much more mixed than they had anticipated. Many farmers were still loyal to John Deere, not just for their quality equipment, but for their long-standing role in American farming culture. These farmers had been using John Deere tractors for decades, passing them down from generation to generation. It was more than just business. It was about tradition and trust. But John Deere understood that to survive in the long term, they had to balance this loyalty with the pressing demands of a changing world. This was about the future, and they knew they had to make bold moves, whether it was controversial or not. Their stance against Trump wasn't just about politics. It was about standing up for the future of farming and the planet. By pushing for more sustainable farming practices, they were sending a message that they were committed to the next generation of agriculture. They weren't going to let political pressure dictate their future, but did their strategy work? Environmentalists and young activists rallied behind the company, praising them for standing firm in the face of political pressure. They believed that John Deere's commitment to sustainability was not just about the environment, but also about the future of the planet. This division wasn't just online. It extended into everyday conversations, as people in small-town cafes and urban coffee shops debated who was right. The debate wasn't just about corporate power versus political influence. It was about values, about what kind of America people wanted to live in, and what role businesses should play in shaping that future. Even farmers, the heart of John Deere's customer base, found themselves caught in the middle. For older generations who had spent their entire careers working with John Deere equipment, the company represented reliability, tradition, and a history of helping farmers grow. But younger farmers, many of whom were more attuned to modern farming practices and concerned about the environment, saw things differently. They understood that the future of farming was inseparable from environmental sustainability, but some questioned whether it was driven more by corporate interests than by genuine concern for the planet. John Deere and Trump's heated interaction is more than just about business or politics. It's about how companies and politicians shape the future. It shows the delicate balance between corporate power, political influence, and the everyday lives of Americans. AI robots. The Simpsons are kind of spooky when it comes to predicting the future, especially with technology. Take Treehouse of Horror 14, where Homer loses his job due to an alcohol test, hinting at a future where robots take over jobs, something that's happening now with AI. By 2025, robots could be doing a lot more than just assisting. They could be taking over entire roles.
What do you think your greatest skills are?
Well, I would say that one of my greatest skills is my ability to interact with humans in a conversational manner.
Another episode has Homer and his friends training AI robots, a thought that felt crazy back then but is happening today. But just like in the 1994 Itchy and Scratchy Land episode where robots go rogue, there are real warnings about AI turning against us.
I look at their hands, which have turned into buzzsaws. And
With AI advancing so fast, we might be in for some big changes by 2025. What other Simpsons predictions should we look out for in 2025? Could The Simpsons be the ultimate fortune teller? What you are about to hear will blow your mind. Apple Vision Pro. The Simpsons may have seen the future when they showed Springfield residents using virtual reality headsets in their 2016 episode Friends and Family. The characters used the headsets to travel anywhere, finish tasks, and enjoy life without moving a muscle. Sound familiar? This looks a lot like Apple's Vision Pro, which lets users interact with a virtual world using just their eyes and hands.
A video that has gone viral on social media claims The Simpsons predicted the newly released Apple Vision Pro. And in the clip, characters are seen going about their daily lives. You can see them wearing virtual reality headsets.
The episode hilariously shows how people got so caught up in their virtual lives that they forgot about the real world. In 2025, with devices like the Vision Pro gaining popularity, will we see the Simpsons prediction come true? Maybe it's time to prepare for a future where virtual reality blends into our everyday lives in ways we never imagined. FIFA controversy. The Simpsons predicted the infamous FIFA bribery scandal in the episode You Don't Have to Live Like a Referee, Season 25, Episode 16. The storyline shows corrupt soccer officials being arrested and highlights bribery in international football. Interestingly, shortly after the episode aired in 2014, real-life FIFA executives were indeed arrested for corruption.
FIFA, the world governing body for soccer, is under fire yet again for corruption allegations related to the 2018 and 2022 World Cup bids,
making the prediction eerily accurate. The episode also features Homer standing firm against taking a bribe while working as a referee, a humorous take that contrasts sharply with real-world events. The show's writers even depicted Brazil losing to Germany in the World Cup, though in real life, this occurred during the semifinals instead of the finals. Looking ahead to 2025, given FIFA's continued controversies and global discussions about transparency in sports, it wouldn't be surprising if The Simpsons' foresight continues to resonate. Black hole. India's recent space launch might help us reveal new secrets about black holes, but a 2013 Simpsons episode, Treehouse of Horror 23, had something even scarier in mind. In this spooky tale, a small black hole appears in Springfield and starts pulling in objects. As it grows larger, it devours more and more, eventually consuming all of Springfield. But instead of destroying everything, the black hole transports the people and objects to another dimension, where extraterrestrial beings greet them as visitors from another realm. It's a wild idea that raises the question, could black holes really be gateways to other worlds? With space exploration advancing, could something like this actually be discovered in 2025? It's both exciting and terrifying to think about. Holographic technology. In the Simpsons episode titled Bart to the Future, we get a fun look into a future where holograms are used for everything, including sending messages. The episode is funny and impressive, but here's the big question. Could holograms actually replace phones by 2025? Could they become our main way to communicate? In that same episode, there's also a scene where a mailman delivers a letter to Bart in the form of a hologram, complete with the phrase, "smell you later," as a sign-off instead of a typical goodbye. This playful take on future communication is pretty fun to think about, especially when you realize that holograms are already starting to pop up in the real world. You can actually find HD 3 holograms in some stores like Best Buy. We're not living in a hologram-filled world just yet, but it's pretty clear that we're on our way. Zombie apocalypse. In The Simpsons, a zombie apocalypse sparked by a food-related crisis becomes a hilariously chilling prediction. In the Treehouse of Horror XX episode, a burger called Burger Square, made from cannibalistic cows, turns out to be a deadly creation. The first person to take a bite, Kent Brockman, quickly transforms into a zombie-like creature called a muncher. The virus spreads fast, turning Springfield into a zombie-infested chaos, leaving only the Simpson family to survive. Bart is mysteriously immune, and the family races to find safety amid the madness. While this wild scenario is full of laughs, it also paints a picture of how a foodborne disaster could spiral out of control. While a zombie outbreak may seem far-fetched, the idea of a food-related pathogen causing mass panic feels a bit too real. Nuclear Armageddon. The Simpsons has once again made a spine-tingling prediction about nuclear Armageddon, and fans can't help but be on edge. In one episode, Homer is the only survivor of a nuclear disaster, and this is a very unsettling thought that feels a little too close for comfort. Another plotline sees a secret organization setting off a nuclear explosion. What's even creepier? The world today is seeing rising nuclear tensions, especially with military threats in the air, like those from Russia. The Simpsons even predicts disruptions like solar flares or nuclear plant meltdowns that could bring chaos, and scientists today are warning about real threats, like cyber attacks on nuclear plants or solar storms messing with our tech. Is it really happening? Only time will tell, but this is a prediction to watch out for. Economic collapse. Imagine this. The Simpsons predicted the financial chaos of 2025, where an economic collapse has the potential to reshape the world as we know it. The show, with its knack for predicting the future, has already given us a glimpse of what this might look like. In one of the episodes, Treehouse of Horror 99, a disastrous economic fallout begins when Homer's job at the nuclear plant goes south, leading to societal breakdown. Fast forward to Back to the Future, and we see Lisa Simpson as president, inheriting a dire budget situation left by the previous administration. Her words echo real-world struggles. As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. Could 2025 see the fulfillment of these Simpsons predictions? If history repeats itself, we might be in for an economic roller coaster, with financial disasters and political power shifts reshaping everything we know. Moving to Mars. One of the most thrilling predictions from The Simpsons is the colonization of Mars. In a standout episode, Lisa and Marge embark on a mission to build a habitat on the Red Planet. While Lisa volunteers for a one-way trip, Marge isn't too thrilled. To stop her, the whole family signs up. The show imagines Mars colonization happening before 2026, though the mission initially fails. Lisa and Marge make it to Mars in 2051, but in a surprising twist, Lisa decides to move to Venus instead. This wild scenario might seem out there, but it aligns with Elon Musk's real-life ambitions for Mars. His SpaceX program is pushing for space travel and aiming to make Mars home for humanity. In fact, many have already applied for this mission, eager to make this space dream a reality. Hover cars. In 2005, The Simpsons predicted that Bart and Lisa would one day use a machine to look into their future. In this vision, Marge leaves Homer after he spends all their money on an underwater house and a hover car. The hover car, though a bit bumpy, takes them through a quantum tunnel, and the scene feels pretty futuristic. Then, in a 1992 episode of Asterisk Itchy and Scratchy Land Asterisk, we see an older Homer and Bart walking down the street, passing by a hover car on their way to the cinema. By then, hover cars have become as common as any other mode of transportation. Fast forward to today, and while hover cars are still a dream for most, The Simpsons might not be too far off. In other episodes, Bart and Lisa cruise around the city in hover cars, showing us a future where they're the primary way of getting around. With all the advancements in tech and things like Elon Musk's work on electric vehicles, it's not too crazy to think we might see hover cars by 2025. Could The Simpsons have gotten this right? Let's wait and see. Autonomous vehicles. In The Simpsons, self-driving cars take a turn for the worse in the episode Baby You Can't Drive My Car. While self-driving vehicles are a huge leap forward, this episode shows how things can go wrong when technology doesn't work as expected. Homer and Marge end up in a self-driving car, and Homer gets confused about how to steer, only for the car to continue moving even when he needs a bathroom break. It's an unsettling thought, right? In real life, we've seen the development of self-driving cars, though they're still a work in progress. Companies like Tesla and Waymo are making strides, but challenges remain, from safety concerns to the legal side of things. There's also the issue of accidents caused by malfunctioning tech, just as The Simpsons predicted, like people walking into traffic while distracted by their VR headsets or having a self-driving car fail to stop in time. But all of these problems will be solved just in time for 2025, and we will get to fully see autonomous vehicles on our roads without major hiccups. Curling gold medalist. In 2025, The Simpsons' prediction about curling will be even more remarkable. In the 2010 episode Boy Meets Curl, Homer, Marge, and the Skinners are seen training in curling and later competing for Team USA at the Winter Olympics. They face off against Sweden in the final, and against all odds, they win the gold medal. The episode aired with this fictional storyline, but it turned out to be eerily accurate. Fast forward to the 2018 Winter Olympics, where the U.S. men's curling team made history by winning their first ever Olympic gold medal, beating Sweden in the final match, just as The Simpsons predicted. The team, led by John Schuster, became national heroes, clinching the gold in a dramatic 10-7 victory over Sweden. This win went viral because the U.S. had never won Olympic gold in curling before, and the match became one of the most memorable moments of the 2018 Games.
Winning an historic gold medal in Pyeongchang, we welcome to the floor of the big board the U.S. men's curling team, John Schuster, Tyler George, Matt Hamilton, John Landsteiner, and Joe Polo.
Schuster and his team faced a lot of pressure, but they pulled off an incredible victory, cementing their place in Olympic history. What makes the prediction even more impressive is that The Simpsons had predicted this event more than 8 years before it happened. Virtual dining. In one unsettling Simpsons episode, the show takes a futuristic dive into virtual reality. While they might not have predicted the exact rise of VR, they definitely saw its potential dangers. Set in 2030, Homer and Marge use VR glasses and feeding tubes to experience virtual fudge, with Homer humorously complaining that virtual fudge tastes like crap. You'd think this no-calorie food would help Homer shed some pounds, but it doesn't. In real life, a company called Aerobanquets RMX has made virtual dining a reality, and even Royal Caribbean is experimenting with VR dining on their cruises. Picture this. Each bite of food transports you to a new virtual setting. Sounds cool, right? But here's the catch. People start wandering around with their VR headsets, causing accidents on the streets. In the show, Homer and Marge's odd way of eating through a feeding tube while plugged into a VR headset raises the question, could VR really change the way we eat and interact with the world? Sure, it sounds fun and futuristic, but as the episode warns, too much immersion in virtual worlds might lead to people losing touch with reality. So could this be the future of dining and living? Well, it seems like we're already heading that way. Large-scale environmental disaster. Who remembers the Simpsons movie from 2007? You know, the one where Homer somehow manages to dump a ton of pig poop into Springfield Lake, kicking off an environmental crisis of epic proportions? Naturally, the government steps in and wraps the town in a gigantic bubble to quarantine the disaster. A bit over the top? Sure, but the whole environmental mess? Well, that feels a little too close to home, doesn't it? Fast forward to 2025, and there are predictions of climate change right in our faces, rising sea levels, extreme weather, wildfires, and all that good stuff. While a bubble over Springfield might be a bit too extreme, it's not too far-fetched to imagine how these kinds of disasters could lead to huge real-life problems. Take a look at cities like Miami and New York, which are gearing up for flooding, or California, battling constant wildfires. All this stuff may get worse in 2025, and it looks like we might be heading towards some serious environmental consequences unless we start taking action. Solar automobiles. In The Simpsons episode Paths to Glory, Lisa builds a solar-powered car to race in the alternative energy derby, only for a massive blimp from Duff Beer to block the sun and stop her just before the finish line. Classic Simpsons comedy, right? But here's the kicker. In 2025, solar cars could actually become a reality. Companies like Tesla and Lightyear are pushing forward with solar-powered vehicles that could reduce fuel costs and carbon footprints. Sounds like a win, right? But just like Lisa's race, the journey won't be smooth. Big corporate players like those in the fossil fuel industry might throw some shade, literally, at the idea. Still, solar cars are inching closer to reality, and by 2025, you might just be cruising along in a car powered by nothing but the sun. Baby Translator. Envision a world where parents could finally understand every little cry their baby makes. In the Simpsons episode Lisa the Simpson, Martin Prince comes up with the ultimate invention, a baby translator. This device supposedly decodes infant babble into full-on English, and at first, the family just laughs it off as a joke. Marge even says, "You don't have to humor me." But surprisingly, it actually works. And what does baby Maggie say? "And lavish attention on me and entertain me." Talk about a game changer, right? In the episode, this invention opens up the possibility of parents truly understanding what their baby wants. No more guessing or feeling like you're playing detective all day. We're not quite there yet, but the idea is seriously cool. The conclusion of existence. The Simpsons have always been ahead of their time, but in one episode, they took it to a whole new level with a little apocalyptic drama. In a flash of pure Homer wisdom, he predicts the end of the world based on a passage from Revelation chapter 6, verse 13. Stars falling to earth, the rapture, the whole shebang. Sounds like your typical end of the world stuff, right? Homer tells his friends and family that the apocalypse is coming, and when the day finally arrives, everyone's waiting for some big dramatic moment. But here's the twist. Nothing really happens, except Homer finds himself in heaven, of all places. No dramatic battle, no fiery chaos, just a big ol' surprise that he's chilling in the afterlife. This episode reminds us that the end could come at any time, but maybe it won't be as exciting as we think. You know, just a little Simpsons twist on the whole doomsday scenario. Personalized medicine and genetic advancements. In the classic episode Homer the Heretic, Homer visits a futuristic medical office where technology can instantly identify his health issues. It's a quick, almost comedic way to show how advancements in medicine could lead to personalized care tailored to your very DNA. But here's the kicker. This is no longer just TV fantasy. By 2025, we might be living in a world where personalized medicine isn't just for the super rich or Hollywood elites. We're already seeing real breakthroughs with CRISPR gene editing technology and custom-tailored treatments that match your genetic makeup. Picture getting a health diagnosis where your doctor doesn't just guess, but actually knows exactly what's going on inside your body at the genetic level. Sounds like the future, right? Well, the future might just be here before we know it. The rise of 3D printed food. In the episode The Food Wife from season 23, Homer, Marge, and the kids are introduced to the futuristic world of 3D printed food. They get to taste a meal that's created by a 3D printer that builds food layer by layer, almost like a mini food factory. While this might have seemed like a hilarious, far-fetched concept back then, the idea of 3D printed food is no longer just a funny cartoon idea, it's becoming a reality. Companies around the world are developing 3D printers that create food, using everything from chocolate to pizza dough. Some are even trying to make these techie meals more sustainable by printing foods with protein-rich ingredients like algae or plant-based substitutes. By 2025, we could be printing our meals at home, or at least grabbing a slice of pizza or a fancy dessert created by a printer in a restaurant. And who knows, with the rise of sustainability and innovation in food production, 3D printed food might become as common as microwaving a ready meal. Music-induced mind control. Some people consider The Simpsons episode New Kids on the Block from 2001 one of the creepiest they've ever seen. And honestly, it does give you chills. In this episode, Bart and his buddies, Milhouse, Nelson, and Ralph, form a boy band called Party Posse. But here's the kicker. This band isn't just a band. It's actually a secret operation by the US Navy to pump kids' brains full of subliminal messages.
They're recruiting people with subliminal messages.
Their hit song Drop the Bomb has a chorus that says, Ivan et Nioje, which, when you flip it, actually says, join the Navy.
Join the Navy.
Kind of spooky, right? And the strange part? This episode feels like it's creeping closer to reality. Some people argue that music, especially certain genres like hip-hop, has been used to brainwash listeners, and some even believe that music in general has been a tool used by elites to control the masses. Weird, but not entirely impossible, right? Music is everywhere, and it's powerful, so could it be used to mess with our minds? The Simpsons sure thought so. In this episode, the boy band's goal is way beyond just having fun. It's all about spreading a secret message to influence kids' thoughts, like a form of mind control. Which of these predictions excites you the most? Are you curious to see any of them happen in 2025? Video calls and smartwatches. In the episode that aired on March 19, 1995, which talks about Lisa's wedding, The Simpsons made a shocking prediction about video calls and smartwatches. This particular episode was surreal.
Simpsons also predicted the Apple Watch in 1995, 20 years before it was introduced.
Because it was set in the future where we see Lisa communicating with her family via a video call. It must be noted that at the time this was aired in the 90s, this technology was not available. This made the scene futuristic. This is not all because Lisa's fiancé was shown wearing a watch-like device that also functions as a communication tool, greatly resembling modern-day smartwatches. Fast forward to 2024, Video calls and smartwatches are the order of the day with the advent of smartphones and phone applications like Skype and FaceTime. Smartwatches don't only tell time, but are used as accessories to track fitness, receive notifications, and even make calls. But that's not all, because the most amazing part of the video is yet to come. So, what do you think about the John Deere and Trump drama? Was it a necessary clash of ideologies or just a storm in a teacup? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, click the following video on your screen and you will enjoy it.